I'm pretty sure we are now live.
Oh, I see it. It says live on Facebook.
Okay, great. So, if you want to share it to your profile, I'm going to go ahead and share this to my uh, fan page, and away we go. There's always some excitement when you're dealing with technology these days. I have to say that's one of the more frustrating things that I've found in COVID times is that we're sort of required to be not only an artist but also a recording artist and a sound engineer and a master at the old Logic Pro and the Final Cut Pro and all these different all these different software programs that in the past I might have like stuck my pinky toe into, and then all of a sudden, I'm doing virtual concerts for an organization that have asked me to, record it and then send it to them, but make sure that everything's synced up or whatever. And it's been like, oh yeah, okay, let me figure out how to do that.
Right.
But
Okay, I'm trying to share it to my fan page if I
okay,
can. I don't know how to do that stuff either.
I know. I think if you go to share on if you go to my Facebook page and then you go to share,
Share to a page
there you go,
or share
perfect.
to your page.
That's it.
Okay, hold on. Live now.
We should be good. But I
Weston
appreciate I
First.
appreciate your idea. It's so funny. We've got these common browsers, Chrome and Safari and Firefox, and it's interesting that in the past I had always used. So for who anyone might be watching right now, we were trying to go at 4 o'clock, and the reason we're 10 minutes late is because I was trying to do all of this through Google Chrome,
Here we are.
and Russell was like, "You got a Mac, right? Why don't you try it on Safari?" And I was like, "Oh, you're a genius. I'm an idiot." So we tried that, and all of a sudden it worked. So anyway, thanks so much for being with me today, Russell. Russell Thomas, an incredible tenor, international tenor, voice faculty at IU. In fact, you're in Bloomington now, right?
Well, actually, I am somewhere in Kentucky.
Oh, good.
I was on my way back home and I thought I could make it to Nashville, but then I had another meeting. Then I stopped at a Panera Bread in Evansville. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
s-
Be
I
careful.
stopped in I stopped in Evansville at a Panera Bread, had a meeting, then got back on the road and they said the internet reception is really bad. Let me pull over in this place because it's really good. So
That's
I'm
fine.
in some place in Kentucky. I have no clue where I am.
And you're
Yeah,
headed back down to Georgia.
headed back down to Atlanta. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Well, again, thanks so much for being here. I appreciate it, man. So, here on Under the Hood, we like to talk a little bit about the challenges and struggles with vocal technique that we sort of all, at one point or another, face, but also those sort of light bulb moments. And, starting from education, going through young artist training programs and into the career. And
Right.
but first, talk to us a little bit about how you initially got into singing in the first place. Did you grow up as a young kid singing in some sort of youth choir, or were you introduced to choir later on, or was choral singing ever a thing that you did, or how did that happen?
I started. Excuse me, my lips are looking a little ashy. So
You look good, dude.
I
You look good.
I started singing in church.
Okay.
And when I was in elementary school, I was in choir in elementary school. Sort of like required stuff.
Yeah.
And I've always loved music. When I was maybe 8 years old, I heard opera on the radio for the first time.
And was
And
that by mistake, or were your parents involved in that?
no, totally mistake. Yeah, completely fluke. I turned, before we had remote controls
The
and
little.
digitals, and you had to press. I had the little knob on the stereo in the back of my grandmother's house, and I was turning the knob, and I played this station, and heard people singing kind of funny, and I kept listening to it, and I was intrigued.
Wow.
Next day, I came back, the same thing again, and again, and all of a sudden, I was hooked.
Wow. And this was when you were
Yeah.
like 8 or 9 years old.
Yes. Eight, actually.
And was this like the old Saturday broadcast where they would?
No, this was after school. There was a radio station was called WTMI.
Okay.
uh, we used to use that for a different
Sure.
our generation. Way
Sure.
too much information, you know what I mean? But there
Right.
was a radio station, WTMI, and they played classical music in the daytime, and at night they were like easy listening and jazz.
Okay, so these weren't live recordings. These were like studio recordings that they would just play as part of their normal broadcast.
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
Okay.
yeah. And so I heard people singing, and I absolutely loved it.
Wow.
I didn't know why. I didn't know what they were doing. I had no clue what I was listening to, but I kept coming back every day.
But isn't that amazing? I mean, at some point in all of our careers, I feel like we have the opportunity to do some form of educational outreach where we're singing for elementary school children. And without question, they are enthralled. They're just like eyes wide open, jaws on the floor. How is that? How are you able to do that? I've never
Right.
experienced a situation where they're like, ew, go, we don't want that. It's kind of amazing to watch an innocent child who's never been exposed or experienced this type of music before, or what the human voice can actually do, unamplified.
Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely. I
unbelievable.
remember being I think it was in Seattle Opera or something, when I was a young artist, and one of these kids in one of these runouts, we were doing Magic Flute,
Yeah.
and the kid said, "Hey, where's the microphone?" It's
That's great.
like, there's no microphone. I think it was David Crawford was like, "There's no microphone." It's like, yeah, the kid was convinced that we had microphones.
That's amazing. They were
Convinced.
hidden.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
So going from there, I mean, when you got into junior high, were you hearing that sound and becoming familiar with this type of music? Did it encourage you to pursue that type of singing? Like as soon as you found out there was something that could be organized and have everybody sort of work on that type of sound, like in junior high choir or in high school choir, was that sort of the emphasis that drove you that, or?
No, actually, in junior high school, I wanted to be cool. At least I thought.
which
So I
which was
wanted
the
to.
opposite of singing in choir?
Right. I joined the band, and I wanted to be, in marching band. 'Cause I'm from Florida. You played in band or you played football.
That was it.
Um, for me, it was band. And then when I got to high school, I wanted to play football. But it was all marching band. But I always took choir everywhere. Like middle school, high school, always took choir. When I was in high school, my choir director had invited this lady, Joy Davidson, mezzo soprano, huge career, to work with us on our Florida Vocal Association solos. You
Hmm.
know those things, you go and you get solos, and they tell you superior, excellent,
Yeah, we
fair.
call it solo and ensemble down here in
Yes,
Texas. Yeah,
solo and ensemble. We call it solo and ensemble as well, but the governing body is Florida Vocal Association.
got it.
So I was doing solo and ensemble. I had a solo, and she brought Joy Davidson in to work with us on our solos.
Okay.
And about 10 minutes into the session with Joy Davidson, she said, "Hey, do you realize you can be a singer?" I was like, "What do you mean?" She said, "You can be an opera singer, like a real opera singer." I
And do you
was
what do
like,
you remember
"Oh,
what you were singing?
I don't remember. It was probably some, Vittorio Mio Core or something.
Sure,
It was,
sure.
it was something. It was one of those. But she was convinced that I could be an opera singer.
And
She
this
said,
was
she
this
asked,
was what grade?
uh, my senior year.
Oh, 12th grade. Okay.
Yeah. And she said, "What do you got? What are you doing for college?" I said, "Well, I was either going to go to Florida State or I was going to go to military academy. I had a few options." And she was like, "Have you thought about being a singer?" I said, "Yeah, I thought about it, but I can't sing. I can't
Right.
sing. That's not me. And she's like, "I guarantee if you go and audition for any school, they'll accept you. They
Wow.
probably even give you full money." And she was absolutely right.
Wow.
So I went to her school where she was teaching in Miami, Newell School of the Arts.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And you went in as a vocal performance major.
Yep. Well, that school is only for performance. It's only for performance. It's a conservatory in the
Oh,
middle
okay.
of Miami. Yeah,
And
they have a
it's
high
called
school
what?
prep division,
Did you say the Nuovo?
the New World School.
New World School. Okay, for the arts.
Yeah, yeah, and they have a high school preparatory division and a college, very small college, but they have dance, musical theater, a great orchestra program, and great vocal program.
Wow. What
Yeah,
did you play in band? Out of curiosity.
trumpet and
Trump.
trombone.
I played
I was
trumpet as
much,
well.
I was a much better trumpet player than a trombone player, but I'm a much better singer than a trumpet player.
I hope so. So you get into school and you start working, and what I mean, it sounds to me like perhaps in high school you were just singing on sheer talent and interest in singing,
Right.
and then
I was just trying to sing.
so
You
once
know,
you
I
got in
loved it.
once you got into the New World School of the Arts and you started having formal, I mean, was that the first time you had formal voice lessons?
Actually, Joy gave me some lessons very early on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe two or three.
Mm-hmm.
And this other woman at Florida International University, I can't remember her name right now, gave me a couple of voice lessons around the same time that Joy told me to audition for these schools. One of the
Mm.
first schools I auditioned for was Florida International University. And there, this woman, you know, told me to have a couple of lessons with her completely free. And she's like, when you're doing these auditions, fix this, fix this, fix this. You know, so she gave me some ideas. And you know, the things worked, you know. And I didn't know what I was doing. I had no clue what I was doing. I had a pretty little voice, and I was very shy. You know, I didn't know what I was doing, but it worked out.
What do you remember surprising you when you got into voice lessons and you start pursuing this, in college? Looking back on that time, were there moments that you thought like, oh wow, I didn't realize that, or whether it be with like what was required as a singer, or like technically some of the things that were required, or technically some things that you were able to figure out that like really changed what you were doing.
No, I'll tell you this. I was a partier, and I went to school in Miami.
Cheers, dude.
I went to school in Miami, and I remember my voice teacher saying, "Hey, you're never going to get better unless you get off your butt and make it happen.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to be given to you." And I still didn't take him very seriously.
Mm.
Then I went to audition for the chorus of Florida Grand. They had a new chorus master,
Mm-hmm.
Elaine Rinaldi. I think you know Elaine Rinaldi, right?
Yeah, sure, sure.
Yeah. Elaine Rinaldi. She heard me sing in this chorus audition and said, "Hey, I want you to come and coach with me free of charge." You know? And I was like, okay, you know, information from somebody you knew, I'll take it. She coached me on all the Italian repertoire. She was very thorough with me. But I
Now,
will never forget that, that summer she told me basically the same thing that my voice teacher did. You're very talented, but either you're gonna poop or get off the pot,
right, right.
you know? And that went to my head, and I took it seriously. And that summer before my sophomore year, I went to the gym every day because my teacher told me to. He told me that go get winded, then go sing. Feel what your body does. Feel the engagement of your core.
Wow.
All these things, you know, with breathing. He was big on breathing. He didn't know much of anything else, but he knew a lot about breathing, which I was very happy about because now I'm teaching master's students who've been studying for 8 years and no one told them anything about support. Nothing
Isn't,
specific.
right. Isn't that
Nothing
interesting?
specific. So I'm very happy that I had this guy who pretty much knew how to teach you how to support. And it was very crass and it was aggressive and
Stuff that
he
we
knew
would
what
get
he had to do.
stuff that we would get fired if we said out loud nowadays.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
I had similar teachers.
Yeah.
So nearing the end of your undergraduate career, sort of where were you psychologically? Were you at a place where you were like, I know that I want to do this as a career, and that you were, geared up, or was it still sort of like, well, I just keep doing what people are telling me to do and seem to have people tell me that they like it.
Well, once I met Elaine Rinaldi, I was convinced that I can be a singer.
Aha. Okay.
I was absolutely convinced.
So that was sort of a
Um,
turning. That was kind of a turning moment.
yes, and having regular coachings with somebody that was professional and in the situation, coaching people in New York, playing with singers I sang at the Met. That was a sort of a wake up call for me. I believed her, I trusted her, and it didn't go wrong for me. You know, trusting
Mm-hmm.
her was the smartest thing I'd ever done.
Wow.
Um, she took care of me. She took care of me in a way that I don't feel like anybody else would have,
Right.
and I'm very grateful. But what happened about halfway through my junior year, I had gone to Aspen the summer before.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, my teacher had quit the school, and I had to switch teachers. And the first one was a disaster. And I'm one of these people that as soon as I feel it is wrong, I'm gone.
Yeah.
I've
Good for
never been
you.
tactful about how to deal with that kind of stuff. Never. It's, I'll never forget my first voice teacher told me, God gave you high notes. Nobody taught you how to do that.
Right.
As soon as your high notes start leaving, run. If anybody tells you they're the only ones that has the answer for you,
Run.
run. He gave me these points.
Yeah.
And I'm glad he did. And he told me that you have to manage your voice, you have to manage your career, you have to manage your manager when you get one,
Now,
because you're the boss.
do you mind saying who this was?
His name was actually David Crawford,
Oh, David Crawford.
tenor,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
not the David Crawford we know,
Sure. 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 Sure.
because he's a little younger than me.
So your teacher David Crawford, you said that one of the main things that he focused on was breath.
Yeah.
What specifically did he instill in you that still to this day, like you say, you're now teaching these graduate students? What kind of specificity do you talk about when you're talking about breathing and how you use your breath?
One, that the breath is never stuck, held. Um, your body's solid and strong, but always flexible.
Yeah.
There's this idea of down and out that doesn't seem to be very common, but that's what I was taught.
Really? Yeah.
A
I mean,
lot of
that's exactly what I was taught and what I believe in too. I mean, I know that. Well, as Cheryl Milne says in the Singers on Great Singing chapter, he talks about singing down and out. He said there's a lot of professional singers who sing all over the world that sing in and up, and I'm not suggesting that that's wrong, and I'm sure they do it well, but that's not what I do. And
exactly.
there's definitely two
And
schools of thought on that.
there are definitely two schools of thought on that. But the down and out with a level of flexibility
Yeah,
was what resonated with me.
sure.
And he talked about having a strong core. The area from belly button and below is where you want to feel like the work is happening at.
Right.
Your lungs aren't below your belly button, but you want to feel that engagement is happening that low.
Yeah.
And he used to do some things that, again, we would get fired if we probably did it today. Like making me lie on the floor, dropping a medicine ball on my belly, making me feel the strength that was required to support a sound.
Right. Right.
You know, I sang way out of tune, but I knew how to use my body.
Hmm.
I didn't know anything about placement. I didn't know anything about space because we didn't talk about and focus on those things.
Now, what
Because
did he
what I
talk
needed to
about?
do,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
no, what I needed to do, what I needed from my voice was to learn how to breathe.
Mm-hmm. And so, of course, once you, this is a thing that I talk about all the time, and it sounds like we're on the same page with this. But when you take the breath in, you essentially have to grant access to that part of the body, right? Because if
Yes.
you're stiff and tight when you take in the inhalation, that part of the body will never receive it. And how many singers do we know who really only sing and breathe from here up, or
Right,
here up,
right.
or here up? But to really find that sort of engagement or connectivity to the lower torso, you have to grant access to that when you take your inhalation. And so allowing, my current teacher, he talks about dropping the groceries, right? So like just let the gut just completely fall out when you
Right.
breathe in, and then all of a sudden you've granted access to that area of the body. And then of course the next part comes. So how do you resist that breath? What do you do to make sure that you don't overblow the cords with air?
I don't know. That's a tough one because now it's not something I really have to think about.
Well,
But as
sure,
I'm
sure.
but as I'm talking to my students, the idea is that it's never aggressive. It's a lean.
Right.
So I talk to them about leaning against your abs and your core, your back, the sides, that you feel this stretch. Also that the stretch continues as you're singing. So you feel a level of flexibility.
Right.
If
Right.
if you're breathing, holding, and then singing, the breath is going to get stuck, your body's going to be stuck, all of those things. So
Ex-
trying to find again a level of flexibility within the movement of the breath and within the low support. I find that a lot of singers get tight up in here around the sternum
yeah.
or in upper abs
Yeah.
because they start caving in to try to feel that low access.
Right.
But for one of my students, it works. I don't know how. I keep telling him not to do it, but when he does it, he feels the breath low.
How funny.
And so then after we he does that, we have to try to find a way to get him loose up here in this upper body.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, I just, because we're talking and you said you're on your way home from IU and your first semester there, that's where I did my grad school. And I have such fond memories of being there. And I studied with a man who unfortunately ended up getting cancer and has passed away. James McDonald was my teacher, who was a tenor who really came through academia. He had a somewhat of a performing career, but more in the art song and sort of like, he did the Brit and Paris School over in the UK, and he did the German immersion program at Middlebury. He and his wife Ruth Ann were in charge of that. But one of the things that I always remember him talking about was finding this sort of primal instinct in everything with singing. Whether that was, I mean, he would say, I can still remember being in the Beehive building, and he'd say, "We look out onto the window there. You see, if I were to tell you that it was going to snow today, what would you say?" And I go, "Huh, exactly, right there. You, huh, huh."
Right.
Right? And
Right.
there's so, you mentioned it's like I don't even have to think about it. If we have the great fortune of our bodies sort of coordinating because of good training that we've had, and no one's really messed us up, right? And then I think that
Right.
it's really advantageous that we're able to find those instinctual or primal reflexes or sort of actions in a way that does feel natural, which is really cool.
Right. And one of the things that I find myself doing with my own singers, with my own students, is stripping away the BS.
Right.
It's
I
like,
mean,
no,
that's
no, no. It's much simpler than that. It's much simpler than that. Breathe low, make space, release.
one of
Breathe
my
low, make space, release.
exactly. One of my favorite quotes. I don't know if you've read that Lamperti Maxims of Giovanni Battista Lamperti book called Vocal Wisdom. But my favorite quote in this book is, "The difficulty of learning to sing is finding its simplicity." And I feel like so often when you're in those lessons and you're like, "No, no, 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 you're doing way too much. Just like you said, just drop low, release, just let it go." Um,
Yeah.
then it's like these light bulb moments happen where they're like, "Oh my
Right.
God, that felt so easy." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Exactly, because you were
It
trying to
should.
do you were trying to do way too much."
Yeah, one of my students often tells me, I feel like I'm not doing anything, but I feel
Exactly.
good. I said, that's what you're supposed to do. Like, you want to feel like you're not working hard. You want to
Right.
feel like it's easy.
Right, right. I mean, there's so many analogies that we could put into this, but I mean, in every athletic event, it's like, what do you think these people are doing? Trying to work as hard as they can to make it be the
Right.
fastest? It's like, no,
No.
efficiency is key, you know?
Yeah, you want to do the least amount of work for the most effect.
That's exactly
Yeah.
right. So, where did you end up going to do grad school after you finished at the New World School?
I did not go to grad school.
Oh, you didn't.
Nope, never even thought about
All right. So,
it.
where did you find yourself?
I immediately, in my senior year, started auditioning for everything I possibly could. I was writing people emails saying, "Hey, I'm a tenor. I want to sing for you." And they're like, "What have you done?" Absolutely nothing.
Nothing. Why?
And I mean, I wrote everybody, and I had no business writing these people. I had no business. But some of them wanted to hear me sing,
Yeah.
and when they did, I went and sang for them. And the first program, other than Aspen in '98,
Mm-hmm.
the first program that I was accepted to, summer program, was Opera North,
In
New
Lebanon,
Hampshire.
New Hampshire.
Yes.
Yeah.
After Opera North, I went that next spring to Sarasota. The summer after Sarasota, I went to St. Louis. Then I went to Florida Grand. Then I went to St. Louis again. Then I was at Tulsa Opera for a year. Then I was at Seattle Opera for a year. Then I was at the Met for 3.
So, how old were you when you got into the Met?
25.
Wow. So you basically did grad school at those like 6, 7 programs that you just mentioned. What? I mean, if you're going to be a
Yeah,
performer, what
I
better
tell
education could you
people,
have?
right. I tell people all the time that Victor Dorenzi at Sarasota for 3.5 months is all the grad school you need.
I would imagine so.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So, as you're coming up through these different programs, what type of repertoire was sort of like your home base stuff?
Well, I wanted to sing Puccini,
That's
you
what you
know.
wanted to sing.
Yeah, and that's what I was singing for pretty much. I sang Rodolfo at Seattle program. I covered some Verdi stuff at other places.
Mm-hmm.
But when I got to New York in 2003, or I auditioned in 2002, um, I was asked by Levine to put away the Verdi and Puccini and focus on Mozart. I took, and that was the biggest buzzkill for me.
I was gonna.
Biggest
What
buzzkill.
do you think? What do you think made him say that?
I know what made him say it. What made him say it was that he told me, you will become a better singer of Puccini and Verdi if you can learn how to sing Mozart with your voice.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I did. And luckily I had the right people around me to help me navigate that repertoire. And it's not everybody's taste. We all are not everybody's taste for everything, you know.
Sure. Of
But
course.
I learned how to sing Mozart with a heavy voice that I learned how to lighten up on the top. I learned how to do all the things that people wanted to hear in Mozart.
Right.
But
I
again,
mean,
the voice is not necessarily the taste for Mozart.
yeah, yeah. So when you started making that transition away from, I mean, when you say that you sang those in the young artist programs, did you actually sing the full role of Rodolfo, or were you just auditioning with
I
an art?
did.
You did. Okay.
No, I did. Yes, I was singing. Let's see, I sang Nemorino when I was in Tulsa.
Yeah.
Um, my repertoire was sort of all over the place. And you're a young artist, so you do what people want you to
Well,
do.
sure. I mean, I've
Right.
always thought that that's one of the funniest things about young artist programs is they want you to you've got to be a master of repertoire before 1750, also a master of repertoire within the romantic. You've got to know your romantic. You've got to know your 21st century music. You've got to have to do everything amazingly, and yet when you pop out on the other side, they want to know what your niche is. So that what are the five roles that you do, and you're like, I can
Right.
do everything.
Narrow all of that stuff that we forced you to do down to 5 arias,
Right, right.
and let us know how that goes. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. So, when you started taking on these Mozart roles, do you remember if it was immediately like you were able to, like, was that one of these light bulb moments where you're like, oh, I see why he recommended this. This is really helping me work on what?
it was immediately comfortable. It
And we
was.
talking? What are we talking about? Tamino or
Tamino and the opera area. I didn't do any of the comic Mozart stuff.
did you do
It was,
Idomeneo? Or I guess Idomeneo is not
yes.
really. Yeah,
Yeah, Idomeneo, Tito, but not right away. The
yeah, because
ones
those are
right away,
bigger
was
things.
was yes. I started with Tamino. I sang a lot of Tamino. I worked on Mitridato, Ready Bonto.
Oh yeah,
No one does it. But it was one of those things that he suggested that I learn,
yeah.
and I learned it and I coached it. And the main thing he always tries to instill was singing with my own voice. Don't sing off the voice, sing it with the core of the voice, and you can still sing great Mozart style.
Yeah.
And I think I did for the most part. Yeah.
And how many
The
years
early,
did?
the
How?
early music Mozart people probably wouldn't like it very much, but you know, but I did what I did.
Yeah. So how long did you spend time in that realm before sort of working back into the heavier stuff?
For a while. I mean, I sang my last Tamino at the Met. This was because of a jump in, though, in 2016.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, so you were obviously doing that alongside Puccini and
Yes,
Verdi and
yes.
other
And
things.
actually, I hadn't sung much Puccini after that time, but when I got to the Met. I mean, I auditioned with Rodolfo when I got to the Met,
Yeah.
and I hadn't sang Rodolfo again until 2017 at the Met.
Was that when you and Angel sang it together, or was that more recent?
Yes.
Oh, that was
Yeah,
okay.
that was 2017 at the Met.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. How funny. So, I mean, how would you describe it if you were to, sort of analyze the vocalism? I mean, would you say that like whatever role you're singing, you just sing it with your voice and it's just the music that the composer wrote, or do you ever think about doing anything technically different when you're
No.
when you're living within a different type of rep?
Nope, not me. I mean, I probably should, but I don't. I don't.
I
I think
always
it's
yeah no I was just gonna say I feel the exact same way, and I remember I love her to death, but when I was represented by Caroline Woodfield, she would always like if I was doing like a let's say I was singing Enrico and Lucia, and then like one of the next things was like Germont. I remember her saying something like, "Well, you need to make sure you have enough time to find those are very different sings." And I just remember thinking to myself like, should I be thinking of those as two different sings? Because I see as just like, well, I'm going to sing what the composer gave us, and in those moments, but I'm not going to change the way I breathe. I'm not going to change the way I do anything. Otherwise, it would be like fake in my, it's like I'm not going to, try to mimic some other singer's sound or try to do something else. But yeah,
no.
I've always had that thought in my back of my head, like, what am I supposed to be doing? I don't know.
I think you're doing the right thing. But what, like I always tell my singers, my students, the system is the system.
Right.
The technique is the technique. The system is the system. It may adjust slightly if you're feeling poor, bad
Right.
at any given day. If you're feeling great, it might adjust a little bit. But your system is your system. So if I'm singing Tamino, I'm still singing with my technique.
Right.
If I'm singing Otello, I'm still singing with my technique.
Yeah, you don't lighten up Tamino in order
No,
to like when you sing Die Spiltnis. I mean, granted, Die Spiltnis is written differently than the Esultate, for example,
right.
but it's like it's the same voice, it's the same instrument.
Yes.
The system's a system, like you said.
The style is the only thing that changes.
Right. Right.
I will not sing Mozart the way that I sing Verdi in terms of stylistically,
Right. Right.
but my voice is my voice. I'm not
Right.
going to sound like, Delmonico as bad as I want to.
Oh my God!
But
The first
I'm
time
just
that
not going to.
dude, the first time somebody introduced me to that old black and white video of him like throwing weights into a swimming pool, that is the most unbelievably amazing / hysterical thing if any of you who are watching have not seen the Delmonico, him walking around the house being like, hi, hi, and he does all these.
It's like,
So
no,
good.
but the best thing is his video of him singing all these arias from baritone to Wagner to whatever, like everything. It's called Mario Delmonico, The Singing Volcano.
The Singing Volcano. Oh my God, I gotta check
It
this
is
out.
the most amazing thing ever. He sings Figaro, he sings Siegmund, he sings Pollione, he sings Otello, I mean everything. Everything.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah.
So
And all of that to say, your voice is your voice,
yeah,
and the only thing you can do is to make sure that you're singing as efficiently as possible and to understand the style in a way that you're not disrespecting
the
the
music.
composition.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah. So you mentioned Otello. I remember when the first time we sang together was that Nabucco that we did in Seattle, I think. I mean, I'm sure we won.
Yes.
I think we did some of those winter competitions of the back in the
Yes.
day, the Leach Albanese and the George Londons and all that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
the production of Nabucco that we did together, and I remember us like we went on that boat to that amazing house over there, and
Yeah.
I remember you talking about Otello and how you had put it off for a number of years. Talk a
Right.
little bit about that. Like, was that something you did purposefully for vocal reasons or for other reasons that you were like, I don't want to be, I mean, I don't know, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I would imagine it's like, I don't want to be the black tenor that gets cast as Otello because they think they need to do that, and then that's the only thing I end up singing, or I don't know. What kind of.
No, I mean, I don't mind being the black tenor that they're casting for Otello.
Well,
You know,
I
as
would,
long
I
as they,
wouldn't, to
as
be
long
honest,
as,
I wouldn't either. I'd be like, sign my ass up.
as long as they're gonna pay me, I don't care.
I keep saying there's a role of the one-handed man in Frau und Schatten. I'm like, why are you not calling me? I don't get it.
Right. Here's the thing. I'm not an Otello voice. I don't think that one really exists except for one. One. There's one in the whole world.
Giacomini?
I haven't heard.
Who?
Well, no, he doesn't sing anymore.
Well, I know.
Lemmy Pulliam.
Oh my God! Of course, Lemmy.
That's the only Otello in the world right now. And I prove I not prove, excuse me. I invite anyone to prove me wrong.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
I'm not an Otello, but it was one of those aspirational parts.
Sure.
You know, I wanted to sing it and try it out, but it had to be the right time.
Yeah.
And when
yeah.
I was singing beautifully in lyric, I wanted to maintain that as long as possible. You know, you want to sound young for as long as possible.
Right.
And that's something I try to tell my students as well. I want my voice to be fresh for as long as possible. But I sang it in concert first.
Yeah.
And that was also one of those things I said, if I ever did it, I want to sing it in concert first. Otello doesn't work as a concert piece. But luckily, Evans Mirages made it happen for me.
Yeah.
Down in Atlanta. And we did Otello in concert. It was the easiest Otello I ever sang.
I would
because
imagine
I didn't have
so.
to move. And I only had my tuxedo on.
There you go.
You know?
What do you find to be the most challenging? What do you find to be the most challenging part of that role?
Act 2.
Yeah.
Particularly the end of Act 2.
Si Pacho.
Because it's, yeah. See, Act 2 never ends for Otello.
Until it does.
Until it does. He has to be the light, fluffy tenor going up to small B flats.
Right.
Then he has to be angry. Then, you know, the anger never stops.
Right.
You know? And so then you got to compete with the baritone at the end.
Please. Well, I mean, I guess some baritones might give you some competition, but man, every time I've sung that, well, I sang it with Simon O'Neill and I've sung it with Brian Email, and I tell you what, just the way it's written, and I mean, even if you go back and listen to just type in Si Pelcel and listen to any duet, the tenor is just in this like, and the baritone's like,
Depends on which baritone.
Sure.
But I was lucky that the first two baritones I sang it with, were more on the lyric side for the
Yeah,
roles,
yeah, yeah.
and that was great. I thank God for that. And then they sort of got progressively heavier as
But you
as
know,
I sang more and more of them.
it's funny. I mean, I don't think of myself as a Yago. I was glad to have sung the role a few times, but everyone kept telling me like, "Oh, that's the heaviest. That's the heaviest, role in the baritone repertoire." And I sit there and I'm like, the whole thing is like this little whisper in Otello's ear the whole time, and then you have that, the
The
what is it, Era la
credo.
Notte, that super super lyrical where he's telling the whole story about Cassio, and the only bigger moments is the credo and then the si pel cielo, and I
That's
mean,
it.
the Act Three contratante thing is just sort of standing there and singing, but I felt
He
like,
gets the brood around. He gets the brood around stage
yeah,
and be evil, and people love him.
right, right, right.
You know. And for me, it's like, oh yeah, he's okay, but he will never be Delmonico. you know. For tenors, that's what it is. It's like, oh yeah, he sang well, but he's not Delmonico.
Right. They always compare
You
you
know.
back to
Right.
whatever recording
He's
is
not
in there.
Giacomini. Right.
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 Unbelievable. So, is there repertoire that's out there that you haven't had the opportunity to sing that you're looking forward to, or have you sort of had everything checked on your wish list?
No, there's a lot that isn't checked on the wish list. There's a lot. Starting with Peter Grimes.
Oh man.
Yeah, there's the Boito Mephistopheles.
Yeah.
There's Joconda. I'll die for that one. Chenier.
Oh yeah.
Those that repertoire. Those classic tenor parts.
Yeah.
Spinto tenor parts. I'm dying to sing them. You know.
That's amazing. Yeah. All in fact, well, certainly the Peter Grimes Balstrode has been a dream role of mine for a long time. Funny enough, Boito Mephistopheles was the first opera that I ever saw. It was that production
Really.
was yeah, the Sam Raimi production that was touring around back in the early '90s. I grew up in Houston, and Houston Grand Opera did it in their 90-91 season. And yeah, my mom took me to the opera, and that was the first one we went to see. And I was like,
Wow.
"What is happening right now?" It's crazy. It's crazy. But
It's such
yeah,
great music. I'm dying to sing it.
yeah, yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
great. Unbelievable.
But
So,
once you start doing things like Otello, that's sort of all people think of you to sing.
yeah,
you know. But I've started saying not started. I started saying no immediately after saying yes. You know, it was I did way too many in 2019. Then I won't do another one until 22.
okay.
And then, who knows when the next one will be after that.
Latanya just commented, "I would love Russell in L'Arlesiana." Remember it, Weston? So Latanya and I sang in L'Arlesiana at Carnegie Hall together with Opera Orchestra New York with Eve
Eve
Queller.
Queller.
And
Yeah.
have you ever sung that role, the Verismo kind of stuff? I mean,
Never sang that role. The only Verismo parts I've done were the Puccini, and then I did Cavalleiro Rusticana,
okay, well,
and
yeah.
I was supposed to do my first Canio in Chicago
Mm.
right now.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
and my first call off was coming up next, like was supposed to be next week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I was supposed to make a role debut. I was supposed to be in rehearsals right now for Count di Luna and Trovatore. Have you sung that? Have you sung Manrico?
I have. I've sung Mariko a few times.
Wow.
I like that one.
Yeah, it's a good show. It's funny. It's like we're in this midst right now where we've had so much taken away from us and we're focusing on other things. Talk a little bit more about the teaching and what that's been like for you. Had you taught prior to going to IU, or is that something that was sort of a new formal structure for you?
Formally, it was a new structure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of academia, and there's a whole lot to do in academia that I
Yes, there
think
is. Yes, there is.
I feel like that's where art goes to die, unfortunately. But I taught privately,
Yeah. Yeah.
and just have shop sessions with colleagues as well.
Sure.
To me,
Sure.
I've learned the most from sharing the stage with Sandra Radvanovsky and Jamie Barton. I learned so much from being on stage with these people. But formally, this was the first time, and I enjoy teaching. I've always enjoyed it, but I never wanted to do it inside of an institution.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, last year, 3 or 4 places started asking questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I said yes to IU, and I was the last hire before COVID. And then they froze hiring.
Yeah,
So
right before we went
yeah,
live. I was saying the same thing. I think I was the last hire at the UMKC Conservatory before they froze everything. And I have to say that like while I have had a few experiences teaching within academia, there's something about being. I mean, IU for all intents and purposes is a conservatory. I mean, that school of music
right.
there is such a focused arena. But there is something about teaching students who sincerely are interested in the art form, that really want to learn to do better, and that are built in to this. At IU, I mean, it's like we were saying, it's basically an opera company. The way that the Musical Arts Center operates.
Right.
So what has been some of the things that have sort of surprised you, both good and bad, about being in academia?
Nothing surprises me anymore. When you get old, that is the blessing. That nothing
Please, you're
surprises me
not you're
anymore.
not that old, Russell. Come on now.
Oh yes, yes, I am. But I tell you this, it's a tough thing to be in charge of or be stewards of a young person's talent.
Yeah,
You
there's a
know,
lot of
you
responsibility that goes into that.
there is a lot of responsibility, and I tell my kids all the time, I have to be a shrink. I have to be your voice teacher. I have to probably be your parent away from home.
Yeah,
I teach one freshman, the sweetest kid, but I understand him because I
yep,
was him when I was a freshman. I was out partying all the time. I was out doing all those things, and I needed someone to sternly talk to me.
yep,
And so I'm trying to do that for him,
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's the rewarding part of it, and also the scariest part of it.
yeah. I agree.
Um, then you have the politics of it all, and you know me very well. I'm not a very tactful person about certain things, so, so so I have to watch the way I say things,
Sure.
and also is not to be to present myself as if I know any more than anybody else in that building,
Right.
because
Right.
I don't. I have opinions,
Sure.
how I think things will work, and I've begun to find like-minded folks, and I think that will help me in my experience.
Yeah. Who
Yeah.
are your colleagues there at IU now?
Carol Vaness,
Oh, lovely.
Tim Noble is still there.
Oh, I love Tim Noble. His
I haven't
first
had the
year
pleasure of meeting him in person.
his first year was my second year as a student. And I remember when I
Okay.
found that he got there, I went and had a coaching with him almost immediately. And he had his big Indian earrings on, and he had his, he was just, he's such a great guy. You please give him my best. I love that man.
Such a character.
Yeah.
I've only seen him or communicated with him on Zoom, but I think he's amazing.
Yeah.
He was a teacher of a lot of my friends,
Yeah.
so I know him through them. But we have, let's see, Brian Horn. I'm not sure if he was there when you were there.
No, I'm not familiar with that name.
Uh, Patricia Stiles.
Oh, sure. She was there.
Peter Volpe is there now.
Peter Volpe. The hair.
Yes, the hair. Yes,
I
Marietta
love that guy.
Simpson, Brian Gill. There's some great people there.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's some great people there, and part of it that I miss is that I haven't been able to be with them in person
Right.
and get to
Right.
know them and talk to them. That's the part that I miss.
Are you
Yeah.
teaching mostly on Zoom, or are you teaching in person, or how's that working for you?
No, I'm teaching mostly on Zoom, but I promised my students that I will come 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
And each time that I arrive, we have in-person lessons. We have a studio class.
Is it like both wearing masks, or how does that work?
Yes, wearing
Mm-hmm.
masks. Yeah.
Good.
Uh-huh. we, we do that,
Mm-hmm.
4 times this semester. So this was my third trip, and I'll go back right before Thanksgiving because after Thanksgiving, they're not allowing anybody on campus.
Yeah, yeah. I so hope that I can offer something like that next semester for my students because there is, I mean, I keep telling them, I've had numerous relationships that start in person and then we continue lessons on Zoom after I go on to the next gig or wherever I am. But I've never
Right.
initiated a relationship on Zoom where it's like I have never had the opportunity to hear these voices in the same room with me, and I'm like, it's driving me crazy. So I feel like we've got to make that
Yeah,
shift.
that's why I was adamant about that process, that I
Yeah,
make those trips. Because I also feel like you can't teach people how to breathe over Zoom.
it's it's a
And I
challenge.
also think that the foundation of singing is knowing how to breathe.
I
So
agree.
I want to be there, particularly for my freshman student, because he didn't have anything. But I also want to be there for those master students that never quite got it,
Yeah, right,
you know,
right.
and to see them developing this talent or this strength of breathing is really a rewarding experience for me.
Isn't that interesting? I mean, I never thought I'd be so proud. I mean, I have a daughter. I know you have a son. It's like
Yeah,
you have that kind of pride on a regular
right.
basis. But like watching these students really get it, and then it's like they come back week after week, and then it's finally like there's this moment where they make a sound, and you're like, oh my god, like something clicks, and it's unbelievable the amount of pride and the sense of accomplishment that you feel for them, and it's like
Right.
that's for me, that's what I love teaching. I love being able to hopefully share the little that I know, and find someone that gets it and is able to put it into practice, and able to make a sound that's impressive.
Absolutely. And for a lot of them, my style of teaching sort of annoys them
Your
because
style of teaching?
yes, because
How
it's
how
all
would you describe
questions.
that?
It's all questions the whole time. The whole time it's questions. Help them do something, and then they have to explain to me what they did,
Yeah.
how they did it, how it felt, where it felt good and where it felt bad. What did they feel about it that worked?
Right.
When they like the sound, they have to explain to me why they thought that was a good sound
That's
and tell
fantastic.
me physically what they did, what the coordination was doing that made that sound happen. Because I don't believe that anybody can teach anybody how to sing. I honestly do not believe that I can teach anybody how to sing. I don't think anybody's ever taught me how to sing. They gave me tools, and I've learned how to apply those tools to my own voice because I was intimately familiar with my instrument. The people who are most successful singers are the ones that understand their bodies and their voices the best, not the one who had the best information.
Right. I mean, information can only go so far if you're unable
Absolutely.
to link if you're unable to connect the dots and figure out how to translate it in for your body. It's just
Right.
words. It's just words on a
Right.
page.
And think about it, Weston. We can't see what their chords are doing. We can't see any of that stuff.
Right.
We don't feel what they feel.
Right.
So to ask them, hey, tell me what that felt like.
That is
I
the
like
first.
that sound.
That's the first
What did
question.
that feel like?
What did that feel like? That's exactly
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. So for a couple of the older singers, they're like, but what do you mean? It felt good. No, 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 no.
Good is not an
I want
acceptable answer.
right. I want specifics. You know what? And I'll tell you why I also want specifics.
Yeah.
Because I've been in so many situations that people start asking you, so what does your teacher teach you? And what do you learn from your teacher? And the most embarrassing thing for me is when I work with a singer or I talk to a singer and they can't give you any specifics. Oh, I just feel it in the space. Okay, feel it in what space?
Yeah. What are you talking about?
What? I access the backspace. What is the
What?
backspace?
Yeah. How do you get there?
Right, exactly. I put it forward.
Where?
Okay, so what are you putting forward and where is that forward?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it is forward a sensation or it's a place?
Right. Right.
Tell me, what that is.
It is.
So
It is.
anyway,
It is surprising to me sometimes to talk with singers who, honest to goodness, know so little about what it is that they do.
Right.
who are just gifted with some sort of, I don't know,
Yes.
talent and ear, or I'm not sure what it is, but I have to say
There's some people who God has come down and sort of kissed their throats,
yeah, 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 yeah.
and they're dumb as a box of bricks, but they know how to sing.
They do. It's
They
unbelievable. It's
don't
like
know
they know
they
what to
don't know
do,
how they know. They don't know how they know, but
and
they
they
know how to do it
and they can't explain it.
at all.
Right, right.
And there's a place for that because I enjoy listening to them sing.
Sure, of course.
But I don't know if if my son was going to college, I would want him to study with them.
Bingo.
you know, you
Exactly.
know. So
Exactly.
that's the thing.
That's amazing. My gosh. So, you know, looking ahead, I know we all want to be eventually back in person so we can have more, opportunities to perform, more opportunities to be with the students and everything. But looking backwards, what do you feel these last 6, 7 months have given you the opportunity to do that you wouldn't normally get to do?
Spend a whole lot of time with my son.
Isn't that the
Yeah,
isn't that the best thing in the world?
the best thing in the world. As much as I want to go and make money, because I'm like, how am I going to live after December? I have no clue.
Right. How am I going to make my son
Right.
food?
Exactly. I'm very concerned about that. But I'm also very happy at the time that I've gotten to spend with my son. We've been outside trying to ride a bike, and we've been outside, playing in the backyard, and
Wait, how
I've been
old
able
is
to
Austin?
barbecue.
How old is Austin
Six.
now? He's 6.
Six.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amelia's 9. Do you remember?
Wow.
Wait, push pause for a second. Do you remember? Oh, wait, well, you weren't on stage at that moment, but so a famous moment in you bring your kids with you to gigs, and sometimes they sit in rehearsals or performances or whatever. The moment in Nabucco when Abigail has taken over the throne and Nabucco comes back in and he's like, "What in the heck is going on?" And the she says, "Guards, take him away!" And they grab me and they take me off stage from the house. Amelia was only 5 at that point. I hear clear as day, "Where are they taking my daddy?" And the supers that were dragging me off stage, they were like, "What was that?" I was like, "That was my daughter screaming from the house." But okay, so Austin is 7 or 6. Did you say 6?
Six.
6 now.
Six.
So first grade, yeah.
No, well, kindergarten.
Kindergarten. Okay,
I
kindergarten.
I redshirted him. I don't know if you know what that means, but
Of
your
course, I
parents,
know what red
I guess you
shirts in.
know
I grew up
that.
in Texas. I played football.
Right, I redshirted him. So
Good,
yeah,
good, yeah.
so he's 6 and he's in kindergarten.
It's always good, I think, to be the older kid in the class. Just for developmental
Yes,
reasons and for
for
everything
boys,
else.
especially for boys.
Sure, sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, the girls are so smart. It's
yeah,
like I don't know what they grow faster. They're smarter. They're more emotionally intelligent. It's like I
yeah,
think now maybe my daughter has caught up to me, and I'm trying to figure her out on a daily basis now. I'm like, what in the world is going on with you? It's
yeah.
unbelievable.
And because he was an opera kid for the first 4 years of his life,
Yeah.
he was with me around a bunch of adults.
Right. Right.
He didn't know how to be around other kids. You
That's a
know,
transition. That's definitely a
that is a
transition.
transition. So for his own maturity and his own growth, I thought that was the best decision, and he's thriving.
That's
He's
awesome.
absolutely thriving.
Is
Yeah.
he doing virtual school?
Yes, he's doing virtual school.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, again, I'm sure that they're all looking forward to being back in school too, so they can play with their friends and hang out. And I mean, it's
Some
some.
days, and other days he's like, no, I never want to go back to school. I want to do school online forever. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. 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 I've heard the same things. It's kind of back and forth depending on the day.
Right. Right.
Unbelievable. Well, man, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you pulling over in a parking lot and taking some time to talk with me today, breaking up
Not
your
a
trip back
problem.
home. I really appreciate it, but I'll let you get on your way. And safe travels. And
Thank you.
I hope to see you out on stage sometime very soon.
Same here, man. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Thanks again, man. And drive safely.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
All right. Take care, man. Bye.
All right. Bye.